We got Cowboys versus Eagles this Sunday. It's going to be an awesome game. I'm hyped for it. So I figured what I would do in this video is give you a little bit of a betting preview for the game. My name is Matt Modi here with Jedi Modi Sports Network. What I'm going to do is talk to you about the odds, the mainline odds, spread, money line total, all that good stuff. Talk to you about the matchup of these two teams, give my official prediction in terms of who I think is going to win, cover, all that stuff. And then at the very end, I'm going to mention a couple quick hitter player prop watch list as well. At the time of this recording, there are no player prop odds out yet, so I'm just giving you a watch list and we'll report back later in the week with official plays. But let's get right into this game. We got Cowboys visiting Philadelphia. Eagles are 7-1. The Cowboys are 5-2. Going to be a huge game, obviously, for the landscape of the NFL playoffs. The Eagles, if the season ended today, it doesn't, would be the 1 seed. The Cowboys would be the wild card. Obviously, that is a massive deal, being the 1 seed versus being the wild card. And it literally could just be the difference between who has the better record between these two teams. So the stakes are very high. It's the first of 2 matchups, so this isn't going to decide who wins the division. But if the Eagles win, they would have 2 fewer losses than the Cowboys while also having beat them head to head. Would be massive. So looking at the spread here, Eagles are at home. They're rolling despite a little bit of a rough game against the Commanders last week. Unsurprisingly, are 3-point favorites in this one, pretty much across the board. The over-under is set at 46, also pretty much across the board at that 46 number. So as of right now, there's not a ton of difference in the market for this game. Now, if you were on the Cowboys to win straight up, you thought they could go into Philadelphia and win, their money line is best offered at plus 140 at FanDuel. So looking at both of these teams, one of the advanced stats that I love to look at is DVOA. I think it's a very good indicator of what teams are good just from an advanced perspective. And the Cowboys, despite having played 1 fewer game and having lost 2 games versus the Eagles' 1 loss, the Cowboys are actually a better team according to DVOA. They're 8th in total DVOA with the 17th best offense and the 3rd ranked defense. So obviously offense is a little bit shaky. Defense is very good. That's kind of been in hand with what we've seen so far this year. Whereas the Eagles, they're only 1 spot lower, but I still thought it was surprising that they were lower, are currently 9th in total DVOA, 7th ranked offense, and 18th ranked defense. So DVOA, not super high on the Eagles. They don't have a top 5 offense, and their defense is below average. It's pretty interesting, but looking into these two teams, I'm not that surprised that the Cowboys are graded out better. Like I've mentioned, they've played 1 fewer game, and they have the worst record of the 2, but they have a pretty significantly better point differential than the Eagles. The Cowboys are plus 77 on the year. That's the 3rd best point differential in the entire NFL, only 1 behind San Francisco. And the Eagles are a plus 52. So the Eagles are 7-1 with a plus 52 point differential. The Cowboys are 5-2 plus 77, which makes sense, right? When you think about the games that these two teams have played, the Cowboys have won 5 games. 4 of their 5 wins are by more than 14 points. Whereas the Eagles, they have 7 wins, and their largest margin of victory is 14 points, and they've only done that twice. So Cowboys have 4 wins by more than 2 touchdowns, and that's something that the Eagles have only done twice. And just anecdotally, the way that these two teams have played, the Cowboys, when they win, they smash the living crap out of their opponents, whereas the Eagles, even though they do keep winning, they've only really played 2 games that leave you impressed. Defensively, specifically, it's been a weird season for the Eagles. 2 of their 2 worst games of the year, their literal 2 worst games of the year were against Sam Howell and the Commanders. Conversely, the 2 best games for the Commanders was also against the Eagles. But then when you look at the Eagles defense, their 2 best games that they've played on defense are against the 2 best quarterbacks that they've played as well, against Matt Stafford and the Dolphins. Specifically, that Dolphins game, the worst game that the Dolphins have had in pretty much any game that Tua has started and finished this year, going into last year as well, aside from the concussion issues that Tua had. But in games that he's started and finished, the Eagles held the Dolphins to the worst offensive game that they've had. And then when you want to look at the Cowboys, their defense has been good pretty much every single game except for that 49ers game when they just got totally annihilated. But offensively, it has not been a great year for the Cowboys, and that bears out the 17th ranked offense. Their running back, Pollard, started the year pretty hot, but he's faded a lot the past couple weeks. CeeDee Lamb has had a hit or miss year aside from their most recent game the Cowboys had against the Rams, where CeeDee Lamb easily had his best game of the year, 12 receptions for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns. So both teams have their weaknesses. Both teams obviously have more strengths than weaknesses. I'll admit that I struggled to come up with my prediction of how I thought this game was going to go in terms of the spread. I officially landed on my official plays as the Eagles -3 and the total going over. You want to call me a homer, that's fine, but the Eagles defense does seem to show up against better competition, and I simply have no trust in that McCarthy Cowboys offense. They're banged up among the offensive line, which is not who you want to play when you play the Eagles. And the Cowboys defense is awesome. I'm not going to take a single thing away from the Cowboys defense, but the Eagles have shown creative ways to slow down the Cowboys pass rush and specifically Micah Parsons. And they've done a pretty good job of having success on the ground game. In both games last year, these two teams split. Even in the game in which Jalen Hurts missed last year, the Eagles put up pretty good points on the Cowboys. They had a pretty good day offensively. It was their defense that blew it. So we'll see, obviously, what happens in this one. I also like the over. If you take out the game started by Cooper Rush last year, generally these two teams score a lot of points against each other. 4 of their last 5 games have gone over the total of 46. And the one game that missed was the Cooper Rush game. So if you take that out, it's 4 for 4 in terms of the over. So I like the over. I like the Eagles -3. As I mentioned, there are no player props out yet, but I do have my watch list for you guys. On the Cowboys side, I want to look at pretty much any receiving prop for CeeDee Lamb and Jake Ferguson. I want to look at yards, receptions. I want to look at anytime touchdown and see where the best value is, if there is value at all. I'm not just going to blindly take these. Obviously, there needs to be some value there. Needs to be positive expected value. But from CeeDee Lamb perspective, he's consistently killed the Eagles. Last year, he was phenomenal against the Eagles in the game that Dak Prescott started. He had 2 touchdowns. He just torched them from the slot, which is once again where the Eagles are weak this year. And then from Jake Ferguson's perspective, the Eagles, according to the DVOA, are the worst team in the NFL at covering tight ends. And Dak has shown some trust in Jake Ferguson, who has flashed. So I want to look at his stats as well. I'm also targeting the Tony Pollard under. Again, we're going to need to see what the odds come out, or the yards come out as, but he has not played well, in 4 straight games now. He's looked bad. And the Eagles have one of the best rushing defenses in the NFL, and the Cowboys' offensive line is banged up. Teams have shown that you can have success against the Eagles if you pass, if you get the ball out quickly and you get the ball out in the middle of the field, which I think the Cowboys can do. That doesn't mean that they're going to be able to run the ball well as well. And then on the Eagles side, as of right now, I'm really looking at Devontae Smith, what his receptions and yards are going to be. I think that once A.J. Brown had 4 or 5 consecutive games with 125 plus receiving yards, they were going to try very, very hard to get him to break the record. And that's what they accomplished last Sunday against the Commanders. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you that A.J. Brown is now going to be invisible and not get targeted at all. Of course, that's not the case. But I do think that the Eagles are going to make it a point to get Devontae Smith involved. It's been a little bit of a quieter 6 weeks for him as A.J. Brown has blown up. Now, both players can go off. And last week against the Commanders for the Eagles was a pretty good representation of that. A.J. Brown had over 125 yards and 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith had 7 targets, 7 receptions for 99 yards and a touchdown. But, and we're talking pumped up props, I'm guessing Devontae Smith's over-under is going to be somewhere in the 50s. And I like getting him to go 80 and 90 and 100 plus. Again, we're going to need to see what the odds are before I officially lock anything in. But as soon as player props are posted, I'm going to be looking at Devontae Smith and laddering him up to 100 yards. And that's all I got. So in terms of official picks, Eagles -3, you can get that pretty much anywhere. Over 46, you can also get that pretty much anywhere. Player props are going to have to come a little bit later. But if you want to be on the lot, if you want to look at the players on the watch list with me, CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson receiving overs, Tony Pollard under, Devontae Smith receiving overs as well. And that's all I got. It's going to be an awesome game. I'm very, very excited to watch it. The 4 p.m. late afternoon slate on Sunday. If you guys are riding with me on any of these plays, comment and let me know. Comment and let me know if you're excited to watch, if you're not excited to watch, if you're going to fade me, whatever it may be. I love reading the comments and replying to them. Other than that, remember to like, subscribe, all that good stuff helps me out a ton. Appreciate everybody for watching, and have a good one.